How to trim flying geese. This sometimes trips people up because you have to remember to leave a 1/4 inch below your point so that you don't lose it when you sew it together. I'm going to be using a square ruler today. Mine is 12.5 inches. It's pretty big for my piece that I'm going to be cutting, but that's because I always recommend if you are only going to have one square ruler, 12.5 is a really good size to get. It's not overly big that it becomes unwieldy and cumbersome, but it's not so small that then when you get to have to cut bigger squares of fabric, you don't have this ruler size. So I'm going to be using this today. Our square ruler has a diagonal line running across. We're going to use this to make sure that we get a beautiful flying geese cut. What we're going to do is we're going to look at our flying geese and we have to figure out what we need to cut it to. This particular piece needs to be cut to 2.5 inches by 4.5 inches. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out my center point, which is right here, that little point on my flying geese. I'm going to take the length, which is 4.5 inches, divide that by 2. It's 2.25 inches. That means that this point right here needs to line up to 2.25 inches on my ruler. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to look 2.25 inches, 2.25 inches. There's a dot right here on my diagonal. This is what I want to line up to my point. Alright, so I've lined that up. I'm going to shift my ruler a little bit so that the diagonal line on the ruler follows the diagonal line of my flying geese. The next thing I'm going to check is I'm going to make sure that if I do cut right here, that I have at least 4.5 inches this way, which I do, and 2.5 inches this way. I'm a little short, like a smidge short. So because I'm a smidge short, I'm just going to scoop my ruler up just a little bit so that I make sure that I have 2.5 inches here. It's really important to make sure that your finished size is the size that you need for your quilt so that everything comes together beautifully. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and make our first 2 cuts. We're going to cut up and we're going to cut this way as well. There's one cut. There's the other. Okay, so we've got 2 sides of our flying geese cut. I'm going to rotate my flying geese. And now I need to cut the other 2 sides. That's going to be a little bit easier because we've already got a straight edge on 2 sides. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that straight edge and we're going to line it up with our ruler. So we're lining up to 4.5. We're lining it up to 2.5. Okay, right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut. And I'm going to cut this one as well. And there you go, a beautifully cut flying geese ready to sew into our quilt. And we've got a 1/4 inch above that point so that when we sew everything together, you get those nice crisp corners.